Geordie Journo's back again, and a happy new year here. Look how cold it is.
And I can see the air.
At the Newcastle United Media Centre, where we've been speaking to Eddie Howe ahead of Newcastle United's trip to Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. Big test as ever, Newcastle looking to make it 6 wins in a row in all competitions. But Jordan will start with Eddie Howe's press conference and what Eddie Howe was speaking about. Injury news, fitness news, there's a couple of questions. Obviously, Fabian Schär is suspended for this game and the next game, so changes need to be made defensively. That was one of your questions as well. And Sven Botman, how far is he away? Emil Kraft's still unavailable. So, decisions to make for Eddie Howe. So, what did you glean from what Eddie Howe was saying about the defence situation, but also the injury situation as well?
Yeah, Sven Botman, by the sounds, is going to be back in the squad, so he'd be in and around his thoughts, so he was happy to have him fit and available again. So I think that you expect to see him on the bench. I think it's pretty obvious who will start tomorrow. I think it's got to be Lloyd Kelly. I think if you don't start Lloyd Kelly, I don't know what message that sends out to him.
It's demoralising, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I think you've got no choice really. Sven Botman, even though Eddie Howe said that he was fit, he's went for a robust recovery process, training for a long time, playing 3 matches under 21s, whether that be behind closed doors or here at Whitley Park. So, he says Botman is in a good place, but I think to throw him in the first Premier League start at Spurs, I think that'd be a bit of a tough ask. I think they'd want to bet him in a little bit more and that, maybe give him, get him on the pitch for half an hour more. It depends how the game plays out, but I would be shocked if he ended up starting the game tomorrow. And I think the only other centre half aside from that is Lloyd Kelly. Kieran Trippier is fine, but would you play Kieran Trippier at centre half? Personally, I wouldn't.
You'd have to go to a back three.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's I think it'll be Kelly and Byrne. I don't think you do anything else. Maybe Byrne plays on the right hand side and you play Kelly on the left. I don't know. Be interested to see how that plays out, because as I said to Eddie Howe, it almost feels like 2 left-footed centre halves is like weirdly an unwritten rule, because it just doesn't happen. You always have 2 right-sided centre halves. But 2 left-sided or 2 left-footed, is never usually a thing. So
we wouldn't be a good centre back.
No, we definitely wouldn't. I can't use my right foot really either. So
I'm even worse, I think. But yeah, I think if we've said it previously, the Bromley game in the FA Cup always feels like an ideal game for Sven Botman to. But Eddie Howe was asked if he'd have any qualms putting Sven Botman back in, and he said no, because I mean at the end of the day he's been back in full training for over a month. Almost been cautious with his return and prolonged it. He could have maybe played a little bit earlier. I mean, we saw him play 60 minutes and look perfectly fine here at Whitley Park. Different levels, of course, but that was, a good few weeks ago now. So he's been back in training since then. He has had a bit of illness, as we probably all have over this festive period.
Geordie Journos have got a bit of an illness bug at the minute. Just me and you were doing this fighting our death. Maybe not death, but that's a bit too far. But we're feeling under the weather, shall we say?
But Sven Botman, I think realistically you're looking at trying to ease him back in if you can. But Lloyd Kelly, it's an interesting one, because his last game was that West Ham game where he had a match to forget, if we're being honest.
Yeah, it was a massive opportunity and he blew it.
Yeah, that was honest. When Dan Byrne was suspended. Now it's Fabian Schär. So do you play Dan Byrne slightly out of position? I'd say that's what I'd maybe do, because Dan Byrne is the match-sharp player, the player in form, if you like. Ideally, Eddie Howe wouldn't change anything to his defence. He acknowledged that, but it's something that's going to have to happen in these next 2 games, and I think Lloyd Kelly is just the natural or most natural choice he can make.
It's a big game for Lloyd Kelly again on a personal level, because last time when he came in against West Ham, I just said that he did have a night to forget. It was a real opportunity to stamp down his authority and win a place in the start 11, and he gave it up quite easy, and Dan Byrne came straight back in. This time, when as expected Lloyd Kelly plays tomorrow, not only is he going to be rivaling Dan Byrne for a place, he's going to have Sven Botman rivaling for a place as well, so he has to impress tomorrow. Otherwise, I don't see how he really gets in the team from now to the end of the season, unless there is significant injuries to that back line. So it's a massive game for him individually. He has to impress. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, I don't see how he plays much between now and the season, because it's been a frustrating start for him. I think Newcastle have left side centre half that they have got a lot of options when Sven Botman comes back. But I expected Lloyd Kelly to play a lot more in the first half of the season when Sven Botman was unavailable. I actually thought that Sven Botman might actually displace Dan Burn, but it's credited Dan Burn how well he is performing, because for me, outside of Lewis Hall, he's probably Newcastle's most informed / most consistent. Since coming in from that West Ham ban, I mean, you almost proved to everyone as to why are you thinking that I should be replaced by Lloyd Kelly, because he's been, I would say he's been pretty faultless since coming in for, I think it was a Palace away he came back in. He's been.
He was excellent in that game, by the way. I'm just thinking, because that was a dire attacking performance from Newcastle, but Dan Burn, I thought he was probably the best player that day, along with Sandro Tonali, of course, who obviously will keep his place this weekend with Bruno, you'd like to think. But another question I asked, Sven Botman, possibly the closest thing to a new signing.
Bit depressing, that,
silly question. Eddie Howe
it's good to have him back.
Eddie Howe said yes, and then said Sandro Tonali was also like a new signing in the summer, probably the closest thing Newcastle got. But on that, on a different subject, another transfer question in terms of a player who could be leaving the club, Martin Dubravka, who's come into the side. Newcastle won 5 games, have conceded 1 goal. He's kept 4 clean sheets, made 4 saves in the Premier League. It's all going pretty well, but there's that sort of cloud hanging over it, where there's a deal literally there from Al Shabab in Saudi Arabia, almost just waiting on the green light from Newcastle to happen.
I think it's a bizarre situation. You've got your essentially at the moment is your number 1 goalkeeper. That is literally, I use the term click of a button away from going, because that's right by the sounds of it. The way I picked up in there is it's on 2 conditions. It's if Nick Pope's fit in January,
which there's no guarantee of either.
But if Nick Pope comes back fit in January and Martin Dubravka wants to go, the club will sanction the deal. That's the way I picked it up. I think he made it abundantly clear about respecting the players' wishes, which I thought was interesting. He brought that up because Eddie Howe, as a manager, has respected players' wishes. I think you go back to 2 Januaries ago, and you look at that window, losing Chris Wood and John Joe Shelby. That's because both players wanted to go, and it was also, I think, a contract situation with both of them too as well, because John Joe Shelby was out of contract here in the season, albeit there was talk of he had to reach so many games activated in 1 year, and then Chris Wood, I was, I think, 18 months into his 18 months away from expiring, and then it was an opportunity for them to get bigger contracts, more security in terms of years. Worked out for Chris Wood, John Joe Shelby ended up in Turkey within 6 months. But I think it's quite clear that if a player comes to Eddie Howe and wants to leave, Eddie Howe will let them go. But I think at this moment in time you can't do that. And I know we've done a video a couple of weeks ago, and I'd seen the value in actually letting Martin Dubravka go. I think now, because Newcastle have improved, they're into a semi-final of a Carabao Cup. You've got a potential Wembley trip on the horizon. You're then back in the European mix. Could you really deal without not having a backup Martin Dubravka? Because clearly, and there's nothing to suggest otherwise, I don't think the rate Odyssey's like a demos. From the outside looking in, it doesn't seem that way at all.
But there was an interesting quote from Eddie Howe, albeit he was asked about Martin Dubravka and Nick Pope, but he said, we have 2 very good goalkeepers in our squad, when, I mean, they've got 5, but only 2 of them are very good, according to Eddie Howe. That's a cynical way of looking at it, maybe a bit facetious, but 2 very good goalkeepers. Martin Dubravka, you have to think as well, you're talking about respecting players' wishes. He's done that previously. You're letting Martin Dubravka join Man U and then also come back and reintegrate him back into the squad. He could have easily said, no, you've sort of
he's done that before, well. Dubravka, I forgot about that.
But you talk about the Carabao Cup as well. You haunted by the Nick Pope, Martin Dubravka situation of a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago now. 3 years? 2 years ago. Sorry. 2 years ago now, where you're playing Loris Karius in the final, and if Newcastle were to get through to the final, beat Arsenal, imagine if Vlachodimos is then playing, because Martin Dubravka, you sell him, and then Nick Pope's still not quite fully fit. It's a risky situation for what you'd get back. Martin Dubravka's out of contract in 6 months. Eddie Howe very much acknowledged that. He's technically free to agree a deal with a new club this month if he wanted to abroad, which is a question I'll put to Eddie Howe. So it's a pressing matter, but also a fluid situation. But I agree with you in the fact it would be madness currently, with Nick Pope not fully fit, not even in full training yet, to sanction any sort of deal for Martin Dubravka to leave the club. And even if Nick Pope does return to some sort of full fitness and back in the squad, it would be silly as well, I think, to let Martin Dubravka go, just given the option he provides in the team and the form the team are in, which it's a bit of a U-turn from us, because we stood up there.
Yeah, no,
saying,
it is. Yeah.
Why not?
It's because they put themselves back in contention to do have some real success this season, the Carabao Cup, and the 5th in the Premier League, and there's it's funny how things quickly turn about, but now you think about can they go and get Champions League football again? So I think because they're in great form, and on current evidence it probably suggests they will be competing for those top European places again, and I don't think you can, based on what it would cost or to lose Martin Dubravka, it wouldn't really make sense, because he wouldn't get much back from letting a player go 6 months before his deal expired. I think it would have
anything.
It would have PSL value, of course, but for the little return that you would get, when you've got potentially again a Carabao Cup final and a top 4 battle on your hands, can you really risk losing your second choice goalkeeper? Because there's no guarantees Nick Pope will stay fit between now and the end of the season. He could easily pick up and knock again, and then if you don't have Martin Dubravka, you go down to Odysseus Vlachodimos. And look, maybe they do believe in Vlachodimos.
Well, if they do, then.
But I've seen nothing. I've seen nothing to suggest that is the case. So if the rate Vlachodimos, I see value in letting.
Dogs running around here at Whitley Park, ruining Craig Hope's video.
and he's keeping it.
He's gonna.
Sorry,
what's going on? Oh,
yeah.
So, yeah, I think it is a fluid situation. I mean, we said, like I say, in a recent video that you probably would sell Martin Dubravka, but then Newcastle's form improves. Newcastle look a better team with Dubravka in it. I'm not saying Dubravka is the reason because of that. I think the midfield has been key, and the attack has been key, and the defence has been key in that regard, because they've conceded very few goals. Martin Dubravka, Eddie Howe always points to his distribution being very strong, and that has
all the time, by the way.
Yeah,
the time.
Every time he's asked about him, his distribution is strong, and I think it's particularly highlighted because of the contrast between his distribution and Nick Pope's distribution. And we've again talked about that on a previous video after Ipswich, when they win a game 4-0. Martin Dubravka has maybe 1 or 2 saves to make, but he's that third centre back almost in terms of distributing the ball, and that's an important role. Can Odysseus Vlachodimos do that role? Maybe. We've seen signs in pre-season. Nick Pope can't.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of balls Newcastle have to juggle almost in a transfer sense, and it is fluid, and we're not privy to the finances. How actually beneficial would it be to sell Martin Dubravka? If it is indeed beneficial, then a few weeks down the line, Nick Pope's back in full fitness, because Eddie Howe was also asked who's your number 1 now, and he wouldn't go down that route. I think it's quite clear Nick Pope is the number 1 if fully fit.
Yeah.
So I think in a few weeks' time, that's a situation where, if I'm being honest, Martin Dubravka probably does leave the football club.
It feels that way. It does, based on what we're hearing and what Eddie Howe is saying. It does sound like if Newcastle in a situation where when Nick Pope is fit, then I think he goes.
But as Eddie Howe said, it's all hypothetical.
It is all hypothetical, which it's not wrong.
Yeah, that's what
we're just all waiting for things to fall into place. This could happen, this happens, this will happen. But yeah, I think it's leaning towards him, probably even based on what happens to Nick Pope, and maybe the Carabao Cup final prospect might come into play.
But you never know. You could be.
Well, that's what I mean.
The second leg of the Carabao Cup final is after the transfer window, which is a difficult one. But if you
don't get battered off also on the first leg of the Carabao Cup, then you probably go, well. I mean, you never say that publicly. You never throw in the towel, but you probably, if you're 3-0 down, it's probably going to be difficult to come back in the second leg. And then do you look at it then where it's like, yeah, maybe we're not going to get the Carabao Cup final, and maybe we don't have to keep Martin Dubravka because we won't have to play with third choice goalkeeper again in a Carabao Cup final. But that's we're going back to this Carabao Cup final because we're all scarred. We're all scarred from what happened 2 years ago.
Loris Karius had a bad game by any means.
It was a farcical situation in the end, really. And
Mark Gillespie getting on the bench. Yeah. I think the goalkeeper situation at the club really, since Nick Pope's arrival, to be honest, has been almost chronically mismanaged in some way. That might be a bit strong, but they've always
They've
had
got 5 goalkeepers.
loads of goalkeepers on the books. They've not really known what to do with them. They've got, look, Vlachodimos is here because of PSR.
Yeah.
But they've still got John Ruddy, Mark Gillespie. They've got 3 goalkeepers who will almost never get games unless it's a ridiculous situation. They're all part of the squad. They're all getting paid, and it just feels a bit silly. But that was the case last season as well. Loris Karius was part of the squad, and yeah, it's all a bit silly.
Yeah, no, it's just the. Yeah, I mean, having 5 goalkeepers, you think and go, well, if you let Martin Dubravka go, then you've gone
5
up there.
goalkeepers, but 3 of which you don't seem willing to play.
Yeah, so
it's just a bit silly.
But yeah, I think it's a U-turn from us. Asked me 2 weeks ago, I said lose Martin Dubravka. Now I'm probably more reluctant to. I would just say it probably just.
Right now you can't, is what I'd say, and I think it would be
it's
silly.
because he's playing the team and he's playing very, very well.
Because of the question marks over Nick Pope's fitness, where it looked like initially Nick Pope would be, it might be a month out now. Eddie Howe said, well, he's not even back training yet, and it's been nearing a month already. So, and with goalkeepers, you're always that extra bit cautious because in theory, so rarely injured. Though Nick Pope has been quite injury prone the past 2 seasons.
And I don't think he's the same goalkeeper. I'm still a big Nick Pope fan. I still think he's really, really good. Shot stopping, albeit I don't think he's at his best levels as he was. He's not making saves that he was previously. But I still think he's a very, very good goalkeeper. And for me, still remains the number 1. But I think with Martin Dubravka playing, it's showing you what, and we spoke about this previously, what a ball playing goalkeeper, if that's even a thing, can do for your team. Because Nick Pope, when has the ball in the stadium, like the feeling of him on the ball is it's like nervous.
It's anxiety.
And I wonder if the players feel that as well. Whereas Martin Dubravka in the last few games has been pinging passes over the Manchester United attack or Aston Villa. So it shows you what it can do to get Newcastle on the attack quicker. And you lose that when Nick Pope's in goal. But I do think overall, I still think Nick Pope's the best goalkeeper at the club. But I do think the situation has probably highlighted that the goalkeeping situation to just go and sign a new number 1 is probably more prioritised than what I would have thought if you asked us 6 months ago.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think Martin Dubravka's the answer, but I don't think Nick Pope's the long-term answer either.
Yeah.
I think Nick Pope has been a great servant to the club, as has Martin Dubravka, both on the day brilliant Premier League goalkeepers. I think Nick Pope's shot-stopping ability, particularly his first full season at the club when Newcastle finished 4th, where he was right up there with the best in the Premier League. It's just that thing that we always knew about Nick Pope that has got worse since his red card against Liverpool 2 years ago. Distribution is a thing, and it's been jarring watching Martin Dubravka come in the team and basically being able to ping a 20-30 yard pass in Newcastle, stay on the front foot. They're not conceding possession through throw-ins or the ball bouncing off players because the pass isn't quite right. So yeah, I think Newcastle are a better team with Martin Dubravka in it when they're in control of games. When you're going away to the likes of Spurs, where you're maybe going to an Arsenal, where you're going to be maybe on the back foot a little bit more, maybe Nick Pope keeps you in games more so than Martin Dubravka. But like we say, it's all simply hypothetical.
It's a long debate, that. I think we've been talking about for a long time.
And we've hit a lot of the points previously before, so hope you enjoyed that. But let us know what you think about the goalkeeping situation. It's obviously a hotly debated topic at the moment. What happens? We think, and what you hear, Martin Dubravka, there is a deal in place. It's basically just waiting on the Newcastle green light to let him to go. And if Martin Dubravka comes to Eddie Howe and says, look, I want to leave, but is he going to do that while he's playing Premier League football matches? Probably not. And Newcastle wouldn't let that happen. So that's a summary of that situation.
Miguel Almiron?
Yeah. What's happening with him? What's happening with Miggy?
He was asked about Almiron's future, and he said he's a part of our future currently, or as it stands, at the moment. That was the term. So
what does that mean?
I think it's another one. I think if there's a deal on the table with him, I think we'll take it. Obviously, a lot of noises from MLS club Charlotte FC over the last couple of days from the former Leicester City left back Christian Fuchs.
Yes. Well pronounced. You could have said that.
I was dying to say that on camera.
Beep.
He was pretty strong in his quote to Sky Sports, saying that he's a player that they liked. Wasn't signed yet, but clearly interest is there, and they're hoping to sign him. Interest from other places as well across Europe. Brazil's been talked about. So
few in Brazil.
I think if there's a deal that financially suits not just the club but the player as well, I think he could be off. And then I think with Almiron, I don't think there's a debate to be had over that between me and you. I think if there's an offer there, you take it for Almiron, because he's started one Premier League game this season. I think it's probably 2 Premier League starts since March. He's a player that's fallen well down the pecking order. Great servant, as we say, but it's just at the moment surplus to requirements in many ways.
Yeah, but he has been for the past 12 months really. Last January there was a deal in place potentially for him to go to Saudi Arabia, and that didn't happen. I think the player just wanted to stay at the club. Again, Charlotte in the summer, there was a deal to be had there, but the finances didn't work. So will the finances work this time around? He's got 18 months left on his contract. He's 31 in February, I believe. So it's one of them. It's similar to Dubravka. Does the PSR situation add up, where you just go, look, if it's going to be 5 million or whatever, any amount of money for Miguel Almiron to get him off the books, do you take it? And just
I would.
Any money.
Well, I think he has a price, but I think anything upwards of 6 or 7 million, honestly, I would take it. It's a big loss on what they paid. Let's say a big loss on what they paid. I don't think they quite paid £21 million for him.
I see. Fake news, apparently.
I think it was more around about 16, 17 they actually paid for him in the end. So it's a little bit of a loss, but making a loss on a player you signed 6 years ago now, isn't it? It's not really one to be a major surprise. So look, at the minute they don't need him. I've got no doubt he's a good trainer, and then he could come on in certain games and have a little run around. But he's not your starting right forward. Jacob Murphy is the standard right forward, and then they still need to go and sign one. But then if it's not Jacob Murphy, you end up turning to Anthony Gordon or even a Harvey Barnes maybe as well. I just don't. Almiron for me is he's not getting games, and I just don't see how you can play him, but I don't think they'll want him.
Yeah, he's too far down the pecking order now to have any serious value to the squad. So it's one of them where, like you say, surplus to requirements. Get him if there's an offer there. I do agree. If there's any sort of financially viable offer, snap your hand off. But then it's one thing the club accepting it. Does the player perfectly happy at Newcastle? His agent, who is often very outspoken,
Daniel Campos.
Yes, and that has been a sticking point in the past with agents' fees, wages. Miguel Almiron is a well-paid player. He's a Premier League player. So to go to Charlotte FC, who may not have those finances there, or even Brazil, it's going to be difficult, I think.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But the price tag for me, I wouldn't look over it too much. I think if you're getting 6 or 7 million, I think you take it because you wait another 6 months, and then how much is he going to be worth in the summer? His value's going to drop again. Yeah. So you got more time to replace him in the summer. They're probably valuing around 8 to 10 million pound now, I would guess.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, it probably goes down to probably a 6 or 7 million. I would suspect in the summer. So, do you hold on for 6 months? And you might. I don't know. You might see value in using him at some point, but he hasn't played much football this season. So why would that change in the space of 4 months? I don't think it would. So.
Yeah. Well, we both think Martin Dubravka will be sold, although there's slight question marks over that. Do you think Miguel Almiron will be sold this month? Put you on the spot.
Do I think he'll be sold this month? I don't know. I'm talking about accepting offers. I don't think Newcastle will accept the offer.
No, I think while Newcastle might, I think convincing the player to uproot his life and leave for what would have to be less money. I think if he leaves, the only way Miguel Almiron would almost be open to leaving, you'd think, would be if there was a loan with an obligation to buy in the summer or something. I was
going to say, I think if Charlotte agree a deal in Newcastle, I think he goes, because I think him and his missus and kid. Pretty sure that missus and kid.
That's what he calls them, I'm sure.
It is. But I think obviously they love the family life up here, and the US is quite a nice place to live in. They've lived there before, and it's familiar surroundings, albeit it being a different part of America. Whereas if you go into Brazil, Greece,
it's closer to
bit
Paraguay
different
for him. But
it's a bit different for them. So I think the US would be his preference. There's talk of staying in Europe, obviously, but if I was Miguel Almiron, I would go to the US
Yeah, he's scored in the Champions League. He's had a good stint.
He
in
has.
Europe,
No, he
so
has. There's no doubt about that.
He would leave with his head
Absolutely.
held high.
Absolutely.
So,
I think that's
any
it.
other? Well, Jack Grealish.
Yeah, he's not saying.
No. Eddie Howe was actually asked about that,
Yeah.
but just said the finances aren't there for
Yeah.
Newcastle to do any sort of business anywhere near that. So
Who knew?
I was shocked.
I was for the opening time.
So yeah,
Another left forward. Anyway, sorry. Let's go.
it's silly season.
It is silly season.
Silly season, and yeah, we'll be back with Liam.
Yeah.
Hopefully down at Spurs. I mean, weather, trains. It's always a roll of the dice.
I know, yeah. I know it's
So,
without one
if we're not there, we do intend to be there. If we're not there, we're maybe doing it from maybe outside St James's Park. Maybe we'll go to the Stack.
I will go watch it there.
That's
like.
a video, isn't
You
it?
don't have to buy a ticket to go there, though.
Oh,
I've got my press pass for the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, man. You gotta let us in.
let's hope. So yeah, hopefully we're actually down there, and
Yeah.
the trains, everything works out all right, and we'll be covering Newcastle United or Tottenham Hotspur v Newcastle United as Newcastle United look to make it 6 wins in a row. And we'll be joined by Liam. But for now, Jordan, to end with the T's and C's, Geordie Journo's new sponsor, well, not new anymore, sort of for a month or so, yeah. Our latest sponsor, with potentially more to come as well. And if you're interested in sponsoring the channel, do get in touch. Our email is in the description. But our new sponsor, our latest sponsor, Mitigate, Jordan.
Mitigate transforms workplace mental health, mitigating legal risks, reducing absenteeism and boosting productivity. Delivering up to £9 ROI per £1 invested. Book your free demo today.
And of course, our long-standing sponsors, Four Rivers Financial Planning, for all of your holistic financial and pension needs. Future-proof yourself by getting in touch with Four Rivers Financial Planning. Links to Mitigate and Four Rivers Financial Planning are in the description, so check them out. And of course, if you like what we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe for all your latest Geordie Journos content. We'll be back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, fingers crossed.
Got the same
that was
idea
well
there.
seen. That's chemistry. Yeah, tomorrow it's an early kickoff as well, so we'll be joined by Liam. So back on the lives hopefully as well. Thank you for supporting them so well over the festive period, and hopefully we'll do a few more over the transfer window. Have a few more transfer updates as well. We've been sort of blagging on about Martin Dubravka. Maybe there'll be more to come from him, but he'll be in between the sticks at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We'll hopefully be back in the press box, and we'll be producing another video for you guys tomorrow. We'll see you there.